Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. I am Zmore, the dad in DPS, and since it's not a Saturday, you probably guessed it's going to be another The Good, the Scrap, and the Script episode where I explore weapons that I've gotten from the purveyor. And this week we've had one that had a lot of comments, so we will be going into that one today. But before that, don't forget to leave a like, a comment, and subscribe. It really helps out the channel, really helps motivate me keep making videos, and just in general would be nice. But let's get into the video and explore something I like to call crowd control. So today's weapon is the 2-shot VATS critical shots plus 50% damage, 250 resistance while reloading, automatic grenade launcher. Now, in terms of weapons, this isn't something that I have had high on my radar at all. Grenade launchers were very, very niche and pretty much broke themselves almost instantaneously up until the recent patch. Since the explosion damage change, and I should say buff, technically, these types of guns have become far more usable and more likely to be used in general at all. So I'm very interested to see how it's going to go and how we are going to be able to, mince things with it. Now, as you can see, I've only upgraded its barrel to the heavy barrel just for that extra damage, but other than that, it's pretty much untouched. So, as you can guess by the name of this weapon, crowd control, its primary strength is in killing multiple enemies in quite a short amount of time. The damage of it is pretty hefty. I don't know why that didn't hit. And because of its effects, it's best utilised in VATS, especially since, in theory, you shouldn't actually be shooting a lot of shots. You should be firing a shot every now and then, so then you can build up your VATS critical, so that then you can one-shot anything that comes your way. But that's a theory at the moment. I am still testing this out, as you obviously know. Ooh. I just randomly decide to go into an emote there. So we're trying to get all these enemies to come to me, but they are taking their sweet ass time to get themselves out here. Oh, there we go. So as you can see, large amount of enemies, small amount of effort. And because I am primarily using this weapon in VATS, the actual effects of the explosions tend not to even affect you at all. Even if I use it out of VATS, I'm pretty much killing most enemies, at least ghouls, with a single shot. And that's not even in power armor. So we'll just lure these all around, get them all to follow me, see if we can get a decent amount of them together. I'm very gassy today, I don't know why. Yeah, well. And the range on the explosion isn't too bad either. Come on. As you can see, the damage is pretty hefty. Absolutely destroying any ghoul that comes near me. So for farming ghouls, it's definitely a pretty hefty weapon. But it would be remiss of me to test it exclusively on ghouls now, wouldn't it? Now, as I said before, this weapon is primarily for crowd control and taking out large groups of enemies in a short amount of time. But for the sake of showing you how the damage is, I want to show you how it works against something a bit meatier, like the Super Mutants. And as you can see, they don't stand much of a chance either. And that's pretty much all of them going down to solitary hits. Absolutely no chance for them to survive. And Super Mutants are not exactly the weakest of enemies. They definitely take more hits than most, but this thing is just turning them into paste absolute paste. I don't think that hit. Oh, there we go. And as you can see, because of the way I'm using VATS, and because I'm not like constantly firing this thing, if I wanted to be using my criticals, or rather I needed to be using my criticals, I would be using them quite often. But I'm not having to use them, so I'm not. And it's destroying them pretty quickly. So let's look at the build I'm currently using. Now, you'll be familiar with this build for the most part if you saw my my build for the Quadsider. It's pretty much the same character, pretty much the same build. We've got Bear Arms to reduce the weight of heavy guns, Barbarian to give me some extra damage resist, Lock and Load for that faster reload speed. Bandolier would be replaced with, obviously, Ordnance Express, but I've not got around to getting that. Plus, if I took Bandolier off on this character, I would quite literally be so overweight due to the sheer amount of ballistic ammo I'm carrying. Then we've got Blocker to reduce melee damage, which is very important for this type of weapon because obviously I will be encouraging enemies to come and try and melee me. Next up, Green Thumb doesn't really matter. Technically I could put Concentrated Fire in there just for the extra VATS damage. Glow Sight for plus 60% damage to glowing enemies. However, again, I could replace that with Concentrated Fire, but I tend to prefer using Glow Sight because glowing enemies hurt like a bitch, but I might change that. To be honest, I think actually we'll do that now because I think that's just a better way to go with it if I'm using that. Then we've got Grenadier for your explosive radius being twice the amount it would normally be, which as you've saw so far is pretty damn impressive. And the Endurance Tree, we've got Adamantium Skeleton for that limb damage removal. Fireproof, basically so I take less damage from explosions and from flame attacks, and Radical to help me increase my strength because I am primarily an unyielding bloodied build. In this section we have Inspirational, Magnetic Personality and Strange in Numbers for the obvious XP boost from the first two and for the mutation thing here. Technically I could use Tenderizer, but realistically an enemy doesn't last past the first hit in most cases, so it's kinda not needed. Then on this section we have Nerd Rage for the obvious bonuses from there, and then we've got Stabilized. If I'm in power armor, I'll ignore 45% of their armor and it'll give me boosted accuracy, and then Demolition Expert for that extra 60% damage to explosions, which is the most important perk on the build as far as I'm concerned. And in the Agility tree we have Evasive. Again, it's basically just going to give me some armor for having agility. Adrenaline, so the more enemies I kill, the more damage I get, up to 60%. And then Dodgy. Now this one I'm thinking of replacing with, I forget the name of it, Gunfu, on this build, essentially, for this gun in particular. And the reason for that being, Gunfu will then swap me to the next target and I'll just get increasing damage and it'll hype up. And if I'm one-shotting stuff, that is going to go pretty ballistic. So yeah, Dodgy's just there because it's part of the main build that I usually have on this. Then in the luck tree we have Bloody Mess, always important, 15% extra damage. One gun army, so I have a chance to stagger and cripple enemies. It's more important if I was hitting something that isn't dying in one shot, but as you'll see later on in the video, there are big enemies that just do not stand a chance against this gun. Then we've got Serendipity. When I'm below 30% health, I gain the 45% chance to avoid damage. Class Freak to increase my mutations positive, to reduce the negative effect of my mutations. It's Strange in Numbers that increases the positive. And then we have Starch Genes so that I cannot lose my mutations. Now, technically I could replace one gun army with Ricochet, depending on the enemy. Against melee enemies I don't really need Ricochet, but if I was up against robots, for example, Ricochet would definitely be a better choice. It just means that I can last longer at a distance, but you know, you kinda have to take that by ear depending on what you're up against. As usual, we are back with our friend the Super Mutant Behemoth, and we're gonna get to see how well he does against this devastating grenade launcher. Let's go for a crit. So that's doing about a third of his, well, not a third of his health, like a fourth of his health. So that took 5 shots to down him, long before he could get anywhere close to me, and yeah, I am quite happy with that. This weapon isn't designed to take out the big enemies anyway. Explosive damage tends to be not as effective against things like Scorchbeast Queen and whatnot. But yeah, 5 shots is still not bad. But how about we come back and test that in power armor? Alrighty, so let's see how well the big fella does against this while I'm in power armor. Now, this will be ignoring 45% of his armor, but oh, what the hell's going on? I heard him roar, but I do not see him moving. Are you gonna get up? No? He's bugged. Either way, that's 1 shot, 2 shots, 3 shots, 4 shots. I don't know what's going on with this guy. Is he staggered? What have I done? Have I broke him? Either way, that was 5 shots. However, a point I might add is I didn't get a chance to crit him there. Why is he falling over in slow motion? This is really weird. There we go. His life finally caught up with him. What the hell is going on? Either way, that was 5 shots minus a crit. So technically 4 shots. So yeah, pretty easy to take out one of these fellas. But next we will try the usual big queen. I'm not looking forward to her, I'll be honest. So for the sake of consistency in all these types of videos, we're gonna go say hello to the big Mirelurk Queen. I'm fairly certain this weapon should do some decent damage to her. Her little babies right in the shell are taking a lot of damage, so I have high hopes for this absolutely slaughtering her. But I just need to keep them away from me long enough that I can actually deal some damage to her. Don't want to go for the head. Go for the legs. Oh, Jesus. So this is... oh, poison. It's definitely doing some decent damage to her. The biggest problem is reloading this damn gun while all these Mirelurks come after me. Luckily, I've got jumpy jeans. Oh, wrong button. So, it was about a whole clip to take her out, minus the clips I'm using to deal with her little boyfriends. And yeah, definitely doing far better than quite a few of the weapons we've used in this series so far, up against the Mirelurk Queen. She's a big target with a lot of armour, but it seems not to matter too much to this weapon, so... definitely. What is going on? I think the dodgy ability is really hindering this build slightly because I'm trying to use VATS, so I will definitely be looking for getting Gun Fu in there. But no, definitely able to mince the queen. So, let's test this baby out in some power armor. Now, obviously, there's a lot of kind of things you want to do with this weapon, but let's see how well it does against the queen. Got a crit. Jesus Christ. Yeah, once you get going, this weapon absolutely destroys anything in its path. It's just getting the going part. So the real question becomes with this weapon, how does it perform in daily ops? Now today is Blood Eagles, so, you know, not the strongest of the enemies, which is apparent by the fact they are exploding on impact. Yeah, I think it'll do. I definitely think it'll do the job. It's just non-stop explosions. There's one in power armor, and he's instantly one-shotted. That is literally the toughest of the regular Blood Eagles, and they are getting one-shotted by this gun. There's also the factor that, since I am one-shotting things, there's also the ammo that I am basically gaining from it, because every enemy dies in one hit, and I'm getting at least 2 ammo from it. There is the slight downside that obviously enemies are a bit more likely to hurt me because I don't have Ricochet on, but my VATS attacks are enabling me to deal some pretty hefty damage pretty easily because nothing is trying to get away from me. So yeah, it's definitely working out quite well. My little friend there seems to be kicking the ass of the enemies as well with his handmade. But no, yeah, this weapon is gonna make mincemeat of just about anything in daily ops. I can tell right away. It's humbling. Alrighty, so the big bad boss enemy is coming in, and we're gonna get to see how this does against them. As you can see, not really basically avoiding the damage at all. It completely minced them. Not the most damage it could have been, but yeah, that thing sucked ass in comparison to this gun. It's 100% a keeper. So that was today's video, and I think we can all agree that it was a pretty successful weapon. Definitely worth the script that I spent on it, and its brothers that will be in later videos this week most likely. Well, I say brothers, at least one will be later on the week. So if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to leave a like, a comment and subscribe as usual. Can't stress it enough, really helps out the channel, really helps me out in general. And we'll catch you all next time in the Wasteland.